Okay, hey everyone, welcome to another Fluent Talk here. So really looking forward to this. This is our third one. Today we have some pretty exciting stuff. Also joined by Eduardo and Tiago. Let me go ahead and just open up my video here. Should be able to see me now. Great. Okay, so two pretty fun discussion topics. One is Fluent and Kafka, and the second is Fluent and OpenTelemetry. So I think the first one is something that we've somewhat had connectors for a long time. Over 10 years, people have been using Fluent Bit for sending data to Kafka, reading data from Kafka, or Fluent D, sorry, was created 10 years ago. I don't know when Kafka was created, but we've had a plugin for a very, very long time. And I remember a lot of the use cases that we used to see in the beginning before Kafka Connect were using Fluent D to connect a ton of data sources to Kafka. And one of the benefits here is as we add, Fluent D and Fluent Bit connectors, that it just makes it super simple to go ahead and collect that stuff without having to write a lot of consumer code or even manage those consumers. So it's still quite popular, especially if folks are looking to bring observability data into Kafka. This is a great way to go about and do that. I think some of the other places we've seen Kafka really heavily utilized is when folks are looking to have a lot of resiliency in their pipeline. They can't have any data loss. There's a ton of folks that will start to use Fluent D and Fluent Bit for it. And kind of just to showcase two things here. One, we just launched our new Fluent Bit IO website, but in this picture, we showcase a bunch of sources and destinations, right? Kafka, of course, being one of those ones. And so what I thought I'd show today is actually just how do we send data to Kafka, and then we have some pretty cool stuff coming with FluentBit 1.9 around Kafka, and then I have Diago, who's joined us from Calyptia, who can give us a share of what's going on. Before I share anything, any other thoughts on Kafka, Eduardo? Things you want to call out?
Wow. So just to say that Kafka has been something that the community has been asking for pretty much a couple of years, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy to see this happening, right? So Kafka output has been there for some time. Actually, one of the biggest contributors to our Kafka connector in the output side has been LinkedIn, the company where actually Kafka was created, right? Then they did a spin-off to the Confluent company. So really happy to see that this Kafka component is something, it's becoming like a big buffer for most of architectures. And having Fluent Bit and Fluent D like producers and consumers of this data and seeing that in many places, yeah, it's just great. And now with this new upcoming work of Kafka input, I think that, yeah, we're taking the project to a next step. And I think that we might be able to close one of the issues, which was around 300 something,
Yeah.
right? We're about 4,000 now. So it has been there for some time. So yeah, really happy about this.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here, and it's just going to be a console for my VM. Let me go ahead and do that. And what I have within this virtual machine is I've set up a very basic input and a very basic output for FluentBit. And basically what I'm doing is I'm reading from our CPU log-based metrics plugin, and then I'm going to send it to Kafka. So just showcase what that looks like. If I go here. I am reading a CPU and I'm outputting that to Kafka. And actually for this, I spun up a Confluent Cloud cluster. So just a cloud-based cluster. The nice thing about FluentBit is we support all the SASL and Kerberos type auth that you might need. And especially for cloud-based Kafka solutions, you can leverage those too. I personally haven't used like things like MSK or anything like that, but I thought I'd give out Confluent Cloud a try. So here, what we're going to do is I'm just going to run a container of FluentBit 1.8.12, and I'm going to use that same exact configuration that we saw earlier. So going to go ahead and start it. And looks pretty boring. So let's go ahead and switch over to Confluent Cloud. Let me sign in real quick. Give me 1 second to fix my authentication. Perfect. And I have my one cluster, and I have my one topic, one bit. And let's go ahead and look at what's in this topic here, messages. So no, the CPU metrics are nothing too interesting. It's really just, hey, what is going on? I could read from container logs. I could read from varlog syslog. There's a ton of different data sources. If I'm, say, doing like a bunch of firewall stuff, these are all things that I could add as part of reading from Kafka. So yeah, it's a pretty simple use case. It's something that you can get set up within 1 to 2 minutes, and with that, if you are going to be running this at large scale across multiple containers or Kubernetes examples, there's a ton of good things there. I think another part that's really important is with FluentBit, especially when you're sending things to Kafka. Sometimes we want to have it in a place so it's easily consumable by what's on the other side of Kafka. So one particular use case I've seen very often is, hey, I want to transform the data so that when it's in Kafka, I can then route it to my particular observability backend with Kafka Connect and have all the data in a place that's really useful. And there's arguments of, hey, should I do all this in Kafka, or should I do this at the FluentBit side? Now, whatever is really simple for you, I'll give you some of the trade-offs. When you do it centralized, you might be spending a lot of time doing some of these transformations. But when you do it at FluentBit side, you could do that distributed across the thousands of nodes that you might have, or the multiple container endpoints that you might have. And when you do that, you're able to then quickly do the parsing, do the transformation, and you are separating that compute out right where that data is generated. So that can be a pretty nice advantage of doing some of these type of transformations at the FluentBit side versus having to do it in the Kafka layer. So this is again a really simple way to send data in. You saw my lines of config. I think I have my API keys in there, so those are going to be quickly voided, so no one else can send me FluentBit data. But yeah, that's a little bit about how we produce data and send it to Kafka, and using Confluent Cloud just to show it in a bit of a visual way. Now, if you're not using Confluent, it doesn't matter. We support all types of Kafkas. I just chose this because it was pretty simple to set up. And actually, I'll stop sharing for a little bit. Thiago on our team has been building a lot of the stuff to read from Kafka. And again, as Eduardo mentioned, that's one of this 100 level issues. And so maybe I pass it over to Thiago. I think you might have a cluster set up. You want to showcase that?
Hi. Yeah. I have. Let me share my screen. Okay. So what we have here is an example of the. It's like a more complex example where we have both in Kafka and out Kafka configuration. And what we do is we we read some data from Kafka from a topic called FB source. we pass through a Lua filter, process the message, and then we send to another Kafka topic called FB sync. So what we have here, it's the Kafka configuration. It's the Fluent bit configuration for Kafka, input, output, and filter. This is a very simple Lua script that's going to be called by every Kafka event. Record is basically adding another property processed by Fluent bit and total records. And here on the top left is just a shell script that's using Kafka console producer. It's just a command line application that you can pipe data and send to Kafka. It's a script that's provided with Kafka distribution. So as you can see here, we're just creating a simple object, simple JSON object name. And if you clone the Fluent bit repository, the master branch, you'll be able to run this example. All you need is to have Docker Compose installed. We have here this basic Docker Compose is going to set up all the containers you need to run. And I'm going to show you how it works now. So after you clone Fluent bit repository, all you need to do is call make uppercase C and examples Kafka filter start. What's going to do is create all the necessary containers. Here it's going quick because I've already created, so it's just starting up. And then it's going to attach to the logs of the Kafka consumer. It's attaching both to the Fluent bit logs, which is what you see now after it started, and then the Kafka consumer. It's showing the objects that are processed by Fluent bit. As you can see, those objects that are being created by shell script are receiving these properties that was added by the Lua filter, and they're being sent via out Kafka. And this Kafka consumer shell script is showing the events as they are being added. This timestamp is added by Fluent bit. So basically that's it. Anyone can run this example now very easily.
Awesome. Thanks for showing that, Diego. Yeah, I think there's always some interesting patterns that we see when we enable in Kafka, at least when we did it for Fluent D, and that was to both read and write to the same topic. So sometimes you get like these, I'm going to read from one topic, I'm going to write to this other topic, and it's topic modified. And I always found that kind of interesting. I think there's a ton of use cases out there where you can leverage Kafka and Fluent together, right? Like almost like we're an unofficial agent, so you can send data to Kafka. So I think this is going to be pretty good for a lot of the folks out there. And I think there's other services out there that use the Kafka API that are not that have a whole different code base. And we haven't tested out with some of those, but some high hopes that everything just works as is because we just use RD Kafka, which is a pretty standard client. I think that's been a pretty great use of using an external library because there's so many settings, right? There's SASL settings, security settings, buffer settings, timeout settings. So I think that's one of the advantages of leveraging that. So awesome. Yeah, that's I think kind of most of what we have for Kafka there. We could jump into some of the OpenTelemetry stuff. I guess Eduardo, OpenTelemetry, pretty big topic. Anything you want to just touch on before we dive into some of the integration points?
Sure, definitely. I don't know if I can turn on the video here. Oh, how can I share my video, team, so I can?
Oh, I think
that's.
Yeah, it's unfortunately I don't know if the host privileges allow. Let's see.
Oh, technical. Let me see.
There you go. Now you should be able to do that.
Okay. Perfect. So we have, let me text here. Okay. So we have been working a lot in, the last year we started all this journey about that started from our community saying how we can take Fluent and also not just doing logs with them, but also how to do metrics, right? And for us, as a vision of the project, and I'm not talking from just company side, but as a project, we always said, hey, we wanted to bring the best experience for the users. And sometimes the best experience is not just do the best on this ecosystem. It's also about with integrations or extend the scope for the problems that we have. The scope of the problems that we have on this year are not the same than 2-3 years ago. With explosion of containers, Kubernetes, distributed systems, the kind of challenges that we have are quite high right now, right? So talking with the project maintainers, having discussions like, and our community saying, hey, why we cannot collect metrics with Fluent? Yeah, you can, but they are metrics like logs. They are not metrics in a fixed schema for metric with type, counters, gauges, all of that things. So we pretty much designed a way that with Fluent Bit, and then we could extend also to Fluent D. We created at Calyptia, we created this project called Symmetrics. Maybe we can show that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share my screen. I always feel that we have a rush because, when you're speaking at a conference, they say, hey, you got 10 minutes, 30 minutes. I think that
you got time. You got time.
Yeah, we got time. That's good. So let me see if I can share here my screen. Can you see my screen now?
It's loading. I got to
It's
Google.
loading.
Google.
You get a Google. Can you see yourself? Can you see this window? Should I move it?
I can see my.
Okay, yeah, that's very annoying. I don't know why they cannot hide it. Yeah. So at Calyptia, so we created this project called Symmetrics. So our journey started how we can make sure that FluentBet and FluentD can inherit metric support, right? So for us, when we handle logs are just structured messages, but in a schema-less fashion. Schema-less means that we don't follow a strict schema, right? Your log can have many keys, different values, nested keys, and that's fine. But when you talk about metrics, it's different, right? Because metrics are pretty well defined. You have a value, you have a type for the metrics, maybe you have some description, and we say, hey, how we can integrate with all the metrics ecosystem. So we created a small POC called Symmetrics, which was like how we can implement metrics in C, right? So we say, okay, who are the best at this point? 1 year ago, it's like who's doing metric stuff? Okay, Prometheus is the king. Okay, and Prometheus has SDKs for Golang and for multiple languages. And we decided, okay, let's pretty much try to re-implement the way that they create counters, gauges, but in C, so we can consume that from a Fluent perspective. And we created this project called Symmetrics that as of today has 10 contributors. And this is already on FluentBit upstream in 1.8 that allows us to create context of metrics, but also not just a simple representation of that metric. That also, for example, if you take a look at the code, we can take this metrics context called Symmetrics and encode it back to message pack, encode it to OpenTelemetry, to Prometheus, to text. So any other output plugin inside FluentBit can take advantage of this system where we take a binary representation of structure and generate any kind of payload. So Symmetric is not about a transport, it's about a payload. So how do we generate the payload in a generic way that can seamlessly talk to different worlds, right? And that is where now we support Prometheus with OpenMetrics, and we also support OpenTelemetry. Actually, OpenTelemetry support just landed, as you can see, 10 days ago, right? And when we talk about all this journey of bringing the system together, like metrics, logs, you start thinking, oh, hey, how do we provide the best experience possible for the user? And when you go to the enterprise, when you go to companies, I will be lying if I tell you, yeah, everybody just use one stack. It's not only that. People has, for example, if you talk about databases, you have PostgreSQL, you have environments with MySQL, MariaDB, or Redis for caching. So they're not kind of homogeneous. Always they have a lot of, different similar tools for different use cases, right? And they try to adapt as much as they could. So for metrics, we always say our mindset was, we're not aiming to replace Prometheus. We don't aim to replace OpenTelemetry, right? We want to bring the same value of vendor neutrality, of platform, be a neutral platform for everybody who wants to solve the logs problem and everybody who now wants to solve the metrics problem. So now we have the Prometheus ecosystem, we have the OpenTelemetry ecosystem with different instrumentation mechanisms. And it's a lie if we say that now everything will switch to X technology tomorrow. That won't happen, right? In our experience, agents with Fluent Beta or Fluent D, companies to switch even to upgrade version or to switch from one thing to the other takes about 1 year, 2 years, right? So, but how you can get into that environment and provide the value, solve the problem in a kind of with a microsurgery, not a major surgery, right? So I would say that Fluent D and Fluent Bit becomes like a Swiss knife for logs and metrics now. And one of the goals of this now is to talk about what is our integration with OpenTelemetry. It's one of our initial entry points. As you know, I just said that Fluent Bit supports native metrics. We can receive a Prometheus payloads and export to Prometheus payloads like Prometheus text, Prometheus remote, right? And if you're using OpenTelemetry, for example, you want to take Fluent Bit and ship the metrics that Fluent Bit is scraping or internal metrics and send it back to an OpenTelemetry collector, you can do it now. Well, with the 1.9 version, right? This is our major release that is coming out. Today, we are just released RC1 for 1.9, and 1.9 should be available the first week of March. So I'm going to steal the screen again and show you a bit of this integration that we have. Okay, let me share. I was quite preparing the demo here, but can you read the text, or it's too small, Anurag?
It's a little small, if you don't mind increasing the size.
There you go. Better? Is that better?
Here we go. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. My setup is a mess today. Okay. So, for example, on my right pane, I'm having here a config file, which is for the OpenTelemetry collector. Actually, yeah, the order is a bit a mess here, but we have pretty much a service, right? That is loading a receiver, which is the OTLP protocol, and one exporter, right? We're receiving the data through OTLP, and then we're going to send this data out to file, right? In addition, we're going to write the data to a file. So the OTL collector, what it's going to do is to receive metrics from Fluent Bit. Well, it doesn't know that it's Fluent Bit, right? It just receive an OTLP protocol and just dump that information or metrics every 5 seconds not to Prometheus, but to the file system here. And we're going to listen for these connections on this port 9001. Okay, so the first step here, I think that I lost my command. I was trying to, I just disconnected the stuff here. I was just trying to, to run this manually, but let me exit Tmux here because my super command that is here, let me try to see if I can dump it to a make file. I always do this, this is personal preference, right? It's like, okay. So when I do make, it should run the collector. Yeah, that's going. Okay. So let's do some cleanup here. I have a directory called out where I'm supposed to write the metrics, but I will make sure that my make file, so you know that I'm not lying, is going to truncate that file before we do anything else. And yeah, so again, we have this config file. right? We're going to receive the data from in an OTLP endpoint, and we're just going to dump the information to the file system. What my Makefile is doing, actually my Docker container, it's pretty much mounting the volumes from where I'm going to write the data, right? Just expose the config file, and also expose the TCP port where Fluent will connect, right? If you want, we can put, please just write us on the YouTube live stream or on the Slack chat, and we can put all this information together in a repo, so you can consume it in a better way. Okay, so I'm going to get back to my tmux, split the windows, and on my right side, I'm going to run the OTLP collector. Oh, Makefile fails. Oh, truncase.
Truncate.
What is that?
Truncate.
Truncate. Truncase, what is that? Oh, permission denied. Yeah, you know, sometimes you have to think more easier. Okay, so hotel is running on the right side, and on the left side, I'm going to steal my command that was running here. The thing is, I'm running Fluent from the command line. Yeah, but this is not the right path. It should be Fluent build bin Fluent. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take the binary, right? I'm not going using a config file. I'm just going to write Fluent from the command line. You can do the same thing. You can write Fluent from that place. I'm going to start the plugin, which is the input plugin, which is called Not Exported Metrics. What Not Exported Metric does, it mimics the Prometheus Not Exporter project. Pretty much, we provide a subset of the same metrics. Actually, what we did was a copy paste. So for our users that were using Prometheus Not Exporter, and they also were using Fluent, they wanted to have a more unified experience. So they just tell us, hey, please, we need a plugin like this that collect the same metric with the same labels, dimensions, and descriptions, right? After that, the output will be OpenTelemetry. I'm going to move this a little bit to the right. OpenTelemetry, I'm going to connect to the host, which is localhost because I'm running this locally, and to the port that I just exposed on Docker containers. And I have to provide the address from where I'm going to ingest the metrics, right? Yeah, we might set this by default, but it's how it's working now. So if you start running this, I'm going to make it like this. You will see that it's going to get it's issuing the HTTP request every second, scraping the metrics. And at some point, I don't know if you remember that our config, I just created another tab here. We got this out directory, right? Since this is just for root, just to make it easier, I'm going to switch to root, and I can create this file, which is a JSON file generated by the hotel collector that tell me about all the metrics that my Not Exporter from Fluent in a local host is collecting. So pretty much what we're doing here is like connecting the Prometheus world with OpenTelemetry, called it a la Fluent way, right? So the goal here is that we support kind of the same metrics, labels, dimensions, and we are able to interoperate between the two worlds, right? So no matters if your company is moving to OpenTelemetry or you're switching to Prometheus, right? From Fluent you can get the same experience. And I would say that we lowered the friction for adoption on all these new technologies. Now, what else we can do here, right? So actually you saw that I'm going to stop Fluent, right? As you saw that in the command line, I was taking Not Exported metrics and sending them to OpenTelemetry, right? But what about, I'm going to send now the metric to two places, OpenTelemetry and through a Prometheus exporter, right? I'm going to use Prometheus exporter, which will run locally. Would it be better if we write a config file? I think so, right?
Yeah, I think once you get more than one input and output, it's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's more easy to visualize. Oh, maybe we could use YAML, but yes, in order to reduce the timing here, let's do it on this way. And so here we are going to write Fluent Bed matrix, which is the input. Oh, this is internal matrix for Fluent Bed. Yeah, we're going to use node exporter matrix. Oh, one spoiler, if you're on Windows, we will have now Windows Exporter available.
In 1.9, nice.
In 1.9, yeah, in a few weeks. And I'm going to send this to output, which is the name OpenTelemetry. Telemetry. I'm going to make sure that everything that is generated in the pipeline gets to OpenTelemetry, host, port 1.1, URI will be v1 matrix if I'm not wrong. But also we are going to expose this matrix by using Prometheus exporter. So we are going to ship the matrix to one place and scrape them from using HTTP client from the other side. I think that should be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any labels? Do you need to label or anything?
Oh yeah, let's show that in a minute. Yeah, here in the Prometheus part. I think that, I don't know if that is in OpenTelemetry or, yeah, I think that is implemented. Okay. So I have my Fluent Bed configuration here. Now what I'm going to do is, let me copy the binary. I have my dev version here. Okay. So I'm going to write Fluent Bed, C, fluentbed.conf. Okay, so the data should be flowing here, right? So if we do something like, so every certain seconds, the data is going to be refreshed on this file, right? This is your just jumping date, JSON, right? This is OpenTelemetry data. Now, I don't know, we just told everybody let me close here so we get more space on the window. Okay. And here I'm going to close it. And now I can connect to Fluent Bed Prometheus exporter endpoint, which is port is 2021-matrix. And pretty much I can collect the same metrics that OpenTelemetry is collecting. Right.
Nice.
Same seamless experience. Now, I don't know if we have people right now in the chat team, but you can tell me if we had any questions.
No questions. I'm monitoring. I gotcha.
Okay.
What's the performance look like on Fluent Bed right now? It should be pretty minimal, right? Like we're doing metric, we're doing 2 streams of metrics, we're doing one stream of log.
I don't know. Let's check. Processes between. Yeah, we are running 2 megabytes in memory. Okay. And we are doing OpenTelemetry, we are doing Prometheus too.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And pretty much that processing metrics times cheaper than logs.
Yeah.
You told us about, okay, your question, how can I add labels?
Yes.
So I'm going to open the helper for Fluent Bed, which is Prometheus exporter -h, that will give you a help of the options that we support. And we have one option here, which is called add label. So the thing is that, I don't know if you remember that we talk about symmetrics. So everything inside Fluent Bed is symmetrics. Once you get symmetrics, you can customize labels, encode the code to different metrics format. So add label take advantage of this and allow us that when the plugin is going to generate a payload for certain output, we can attach labels. And sometimes you need this because you want to reach your metrics. We are doing this now. We're going to do it in the output side, but you can do it in other places. So, for example, add label company equal. I think that this is the format. Yeah, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it should be like that. So the Prometheus exporter should be on that. There you go. Oh, at levels expect a key and a value. Okay. Yeah, we're no longer using this. It's like this. Yeah, we're going to fix that in the YAML version. No worries. Okay, and if you go to curl and we query now the Prometheus information, you will see that most of the labels contains now, sorry, most of the metrics contains a label called company equals Calyptia. And this is quite powerful because sometimes before you ship the information, you want to say, hey, no, this is the host name, or you want to add some custom label because when you do metrics aggregation, you wanted to, I don't know, do a query based on these labels, right? And this same thing that we just did here applies to the, if I'm not wrong, to the OpenTelemetry plugin. So we got custom labels for Prometheus, and now let me take a look at the other plugin, which is Output, OpenTelemetry, and H. We got the helper here. Yeah, it inherits all networking. We can do TLS to authentication. Oh, we have add label too. I don't know if you can read it here.
Yep, nice.
Awesome. So we're going to add another label token. Add label Fluent One ecosystem. There you go. I'm going to restart Fluent Bed. And now the auto metrics should have that, right? So remember that the metrics from OpenTelemetry are being delivered to a file. So pretty much you can do Fluent Bed metrics, hotel, and look for ecosystem. There you go. So you go, you know, the labels, right, inside a hotel matrix. So, and this opens also a lot of possibilities because in Fluent, you will be able to not just add labels, but to metric aggregation. Now, I know we're going to get a bunch of questions where we go in, was Fluent, integration with hotel. So for us, we see that this as just one ecosystem. We see that most of this stuff is getting around Fluent Bed, right? We have operating systems. We have also, you know, frameworks like OpenTelemetry. And it's really important that an agent or any kind of aggregator could deal with these different sources of information that could be logs, it could be metrics. Actually, I wanted to show you something because we are working on a new logo that pretty much represents what we are doing here. Just give me 1 second because I cannot find it. Image PNG. Oh, it should be on downloads. Okay, give me 1 second. Image PNG. Oh, it's not working. Hold on. I know that doing things live is last minute.
Yeah.
Oh, it's image.26, you know.
Oh, there you go. That's why.
Yeah, it's like when you have downloaded the same thing many times.
Yeah.
So now I can share the image here. So we're trying to come up with this, right? So that when we have the project, also this comes from a company perspective that, you know, things we can connect different worlds, OpenTelemetry, OpenMetric, Prometheus, Kubernetes, different operating systems. And this is really interesting because it opens a lot of possibilities, and actually it continues the same direction that we allow to the users to become and deploy in a vendor neutral way. And actually, if you got another kind of, I don't know, future framework in 10 years, you might still use Fluent Bed and connect to that if you want to replace your Prometheus, your OpenTelemetry. Yeah, we don't know. But yeah, this was kind of quick demo and the foundation of what we're working on.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really exciting. I think it's fun to do. I mean, obviously we'll have to do some log-to-metrics in one of these Fluent Talks in the future, but
log-to-metrics is coming, right?
Yeah. Oh, any
spoiler
preview for the Fluent Talk, or should we wait till next week? Keep it.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, we're focusing most on the RC, getting really stable that people can deploy it.
Yeah.
we are seeing every day and like $5 million downloads from Docker Hub. So people is testing this like crazy. So safety, performance, and security is on top of everything right now.
Definitely. Okay. Well, with that, then I think we can probably close out for today with some nice future topics coming next week. Maybe we can do log to metrics next week. That can be a pretty fun time for folks. So okay. Well, with that, then yeah, we can go ahead and end for today. Thanks so much for everyone for joining, and of course you can reach us on the Fluent Slack channel or at Calyptia Inc. So.
Oh, Anwar, always, we are hiring.
Yes.
Backend developers, front-end developers, C developers. So if you're watching this, you want to play on these interesting challenges, let us know. Calyptia is a fully remote distributed company. And we are open to hire everywhere to the right people with the right skills. So feel free to ping us. We are pretty open about diversity. Just let us know.